All right. All done with that David Starr mega push. And kind of close the booking book. And I guess we should probably start recording. I probably should check the news before I do anything stupid. So just go take a look here. Oh, fuck.
Into the ropes and off, a flying tackle by Ruffin.
10 pounds of pure gold.
Got to hold this just a minute. You want a little bit more?
I'm a real heavyweight champion.
Gotta be the best of me. More to me than anything I've ever done in wrestling.
They call this the fifth count to gold championship. As existed in a truck product.
That canvas pretty hard, and look at Buddy gonna work now. Oh!
Hey everybody, it's Durger time. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Total Extreme Wrestling 2020 Billy Corgan's NWA. And we have ready for us the Crockett Cup tournament, or the beginning of it, I should say. So if you watched the previous episode, you would know already that we have 16 teams, all of which are not currently signed with the NWA. And the winner of this tournament will get a shot at the NWA tag team titles, as well as a contract with the company permanently, or more permanently. So the big thing, just to recap what's going on with this, is we are splitting up the decision making between me and you guys, specifically members of my official Discord channel, which you can find a link to in the description of this video. I highly recommend joining up. It's a lot of fun. I always like having fresh faces in there, and it's a great way to communicate with fellow wrestling fans, viewers of this channel, and obviously myself. We talk about everything in there, so it would really be great to see you pop in and say hi. But if you are in the Discord, you will have an opportunity to vote on certain rounds on who will go forward. So how it's going to start is the very first rounds of competitors in the beginning are going to be decided by me. Then the second round will be by you guys. The semifinals, or the quarterfinals, semifinals, etc. It kind of goes in reversing order. So essentially, we will be picking kind of every other one. So it's going to take a while, I think, because I think we're only going to be able to do probably early on maybe 2 matches per show, which is fine. In order to get this to happen, I have everybody signed on a 3-month contract, tentatively. Thankfully, with the way the game's set up now, we don't really have to worry that much about the downsides, right? So if you look at how our downsides are financials for contracts, can I look at this one? I think almost nobody has a downside at all. But, obviously everybody else that's part of it has, their costs assigned to it. But if they're off the tournament, we might just balance them. Maybe they'll hang out for a little bit, but for the most part, we will just go ahead and let them go. And a lot of those contracts are just, 3 months or so. So some of these are actually 2 months, 3 weeks kind of situations. So we don't have to worry about the downsides. So it doesn't really matter that we have all of these guys on here. If this was 2016 in terms of the game, this would be an impossible tournament to book, because each character at this rate would already require downsides. And we'd be spending thousands of dollars just sitting them along the tournament waiting for it to be completed. So we have a lot of time that we can kind of complete this tournament. I just had to reconfigure some of the roster due to some real life issues that have happened in the last week. Let's say some of my booking plans may be on a hiatus as I try to figure out how I want to move forward. The Marty Scurll situation is one that's ongoing, and it is what it is. But especially the David Starr situation is incredibly heinous, and I don't know if honestly I'm still torn on whether I want to utilize him, as I love him as a wrestler quite a bit, but I think his actions outside of the ring are abhorrent, and I don't know if I necessarily want to give him any time of day, even in the game. I'm not sure yet, which is very unfortunate, because I had, as you saw in the intro, quite a long plan for him. So we will figure out how we're going to deal with the situation going forward. But for now, we're putting that on the back burner, let's say. Good thing is we have a tournament to run, which will definitely be the focus of the storylines, as well as having to figure out what to do for Tim Storm, who is retiring, unfortunately. A small section of my audience screams in cheers of happiness as they saw that. There's a lot of Tim Storm haters in the audience that are going to be very thankful when he no longer could be an on-air personality or a ongoing wrestler in the active roster. I'm hoping to still have him around. He's unfortunately, his stats I think are just too weak to be a road agent. Yeah, not great. Psychology's a little low, which is kind of, you typically a road agent. I believe we're looking at strong basics and strong psychology, and 73, 77 for both of these. Like, it's doable, but it's not necessarily the best, but it's not horrible. But for a long term, as we grow and hopefully we get bigger, that's not the type of psychology you would want from a larger company. For this size, probably fine. Though his microphone work is decent, his acting's fine. We may make him a manager of some sort. Even like a general manager at some point would be kind of interesting if we ever bring up that kind of thing. I kind of want to get through the Billy Corgan, Paul Pinky George story arc and kind of resolve that at some point. It's been kind of an ongoing issue for 4 seasons now, or whatever you would call it. So moving forward out of that would be nice to maybe have like a general manager to kind of bounce things off of as we put Corgan into the background and maybe Pinky George into the background as well for a bit. Anyways, that's it for the rambling. Let's go and let's move on to our show. Let's get that tournament started and see how it runs. And you guys will be shocked because I'm planning some swerves here and there. Don't worry. I saw some people saying that this might be the most predictable tournament ever. I don't think so. And hopefully we can, especially with your guys' interactions, it'll definitely be some shockers, I think. But we will see. Anyone can win. Anyone. Except for Tim Storm, because he's not in it. But if he was, he would win it. All right, let's see what we got in the news here. Sasha Banks wins online plaudits. Heartwarming story, praise online and personally responding to a schoolgirl fan. Oh, and we just fired her. Oh well. Could have used that as a bonus. So, regional battles are in. We finished first out of 3 in the Southeast. Ain't too shabby. And we got a 5% boost from the next month. Miroslav was in a loan from AEW. And Thunder Rosa is now classified as a luchador. Okay, cool. We don't care about Mark Quinn unless he ends up joining us. So one of the other things, and I forget who told me this, but thank you, is that we can see our backstage in our backstage issues on the main screen here, which I believe, if I recall on here, it wasn't creative, was on the aptly named backstage button under business management, which I believe is open during the PM. So that is how you can see your backstage rating, which we're currently at 100% somehow. Much more generous. Well, apparently it's all the people we just hired now are mildly positive. So that's kind of nice. And then we have some negative influences, obviously, kind of rounding that out. And this is where we would change the things. I do believe we can find this during the PM page screen, so it's not as nice as it used to be, where you had it all on one page, but it is there. So I should at least say that is an option. You can bring up the backstage management and see where that's at during a show. I still prefer where it was in 2016, though. All right, we still got another day of simming, so let's get over to our next episode of Power. All right. Just curious, want to look at it, see if it's true. Yep, you can get the backstage from here, which is nice. So thank you. I forget who said it, but thank you for posting that, because it is helpful, because I really was racking my brain trying to find it at all. I don't know why I didn't check on the very obvious backstage button, but for some reason I just looked over it. Anyways, so we do have some backstage incidents, one involving Thunder Rosa. Uh-oh. She helped create a fun and relaxing atmosphere backstage after finding a discard karaoke machine and starting an impromptu pre-show competition. Awesome. That's nice of her. I would like to push Thunder Rosa more. Something we need to work on is our women's division. I say that having fired Sasha Banks, and I know there were some criticisms for that, but I just felt that I felt she was too talented for what our roster is right now, and thus too expensive. But in a more fleshed out women's division in the future, I could see her coming. Well, probably not coming back now, but I am a fan of Sasha Banks in general, especially when she was a heel. When she wasn't a heel, when she's a face, I think she sucks. And obviously her backstage attitude's not great, but whose is nowadays, you know? I guess the bar now of wrestlers are they sexual predators? And if they're not a sexual predator, they're at least they're better, I suppose. Let's get a medal. We do have some relationships here. So some of these we're gonna have to just lapse out if they don't win, obviously. Like Colt Cabana will be upset if we let go Luke Gallows if he loses. So they'll just be hanging around for 3 months, but we're not paying them, so it's not a big deal. But let's try to build something here. Let's go Kimberly and maybe Tessa. Is Tessa not on the show tonight? I don't see her. Okay. Maybe Nick Aldis? Why not? No meddling effect. Do we have anyone that's not at the show? Absent workers. Tessa Blanchard is working for Impact tonight. That's right. You're on Impact still. That's a problem. Not a huge problem, but, we can't have her on a segment if we wanted to. Overall, though, not the end of the world. So let's go ahead and let's book the show. We have, a few storylines going still that we need to resolve or ongoing that are going to be building up to something. But right now, are we building to a specific scheduled event yet? I don't think we are. So we should probably book a actual event after this. 'Cause I think I don't think we have one currently on the cards, but I would expect at the end of July. So we have some time to kind of build that up. Because we're not going to do one every month. It's just not, I don't think it makes sense for our size level right now. And so we'll end up having a show probably in middle or end July to build towards. So we definitely are going to have some big fights. Obviously, Pillman and Brody Lee are probably going to be building up to a competition at the end of that pay-per-view. But other matches could happen. Big matches like the Alliance title. We have the Shoney's Championship still up for grabs. The tag titles are still being competed for, but we're going to definitely be on a sideline during the tournament. And Flip versus Colt Cabana, obviously, still brewing. And obviously, also the Miroslav, our buddy Rusev, coming in to bat for Billy Corgan. We'll have to see where that ends up evolving as we try to tip the balance of power between the board of directors and Billy Corgan himself. But let's book it and let's see how it all stacks out. Where are we going to be? We're going to be in the Southeast, so we should be in our... Oh, we don't want to be Full Sail. I want to be... Though, again, I think that's hilarious, but we want to be in our Power Studio. It's our place. We own it. It's a hotbed. It's important. We should probably use it. All right. Let's book this show. All right, guys, we are ready. Let's go ahead and start the show. So we start to show off with 2 hype videos saying that the Crockett Cup is starting. Our main event tonight is one of the actual matches of the Crockett Cup. It's FTR versus the Dawson Brothers. Of course, Dawson Brothers are returning to the NWA here, sort of kind of coming back to home base to challenge for the Crockett Cup. So they kind of have home field advantage, but FTR is a major competition for them. So, you know, we'll see how it goes. After that, we also have the Good Brothers versus 2 guys, 1 tag. So that's Silas Young and Josh Woods versus Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows. Also going to be happening tonight for the Crockett Cup. And we start to show off with everyone's favorite Tim Storm. Match is better than I thought. It's extremely short, but Tim Storm goes over Zeki Dice. Poor Zeki Dice went from the main event to job out to the undercard to job out to quickly in 5 minutes by pinfall with the Eye of a Storm. Tim Storm has a 37, Zeki Dice has a 43. That's right, our enhancement talent has better performance than Tim Storm. I know, but, you know, we're building to something, damn it, so I'm gonna do it. 31 for entries is fine. This segment doesn't do as well as hoping, but it's okay. We have a little promo by Tim Storm. He grabs a microphone after winning in the ring, and he looks a little sad. And he says, you know, I had a match a bit ago, a couple of weeks ago now, and my body still aches from it. This 50-year-old frame, Mama Storm built it great, but its foundation is flexing, and the exterior is starting to crack. I'm not sure how much longer I can compete at the level that I did, and I hate knowing that with each passing day, I'm weaker than I ever was before. That realization, that's sobering. I don't know when I'll retire, but I do know that I don't want to fade away. I know I won't ever hold the 10 pounds of gold again. I've settled with that. But I do know that there are other belts in this company that still mean something, and that they aren't being respected anymore. One last ride. I'm going to fight to restore dignity back to these titles. So we have Tim Storm there making a claim. Obviously, we have several titles that are still available. Mostly the ones for singles being the U.S. title, now the Shoney's Championship, and the Alliance title. So he's kind of calling a shot to one of those two. Kind of more obvious for one over the other, but trying to kind of have a blaze of glory. Trying to go out with that blaze of glory for that one last shot. Obviously, we have, I think, 3 months until he retires, so we have some time before we have to worry about that. And, you know, I want to give him something. I want to have one last hurrah as one of the cornerstones for our company go away and fade off. To Doc Persona's much delight, I think it's one of our regular commenters and watchers of the show absolutely hates Tim Storm with a passion, so I'm sure he is very excited to watch that retirement. I'm going to do like a retirement party just to rub it in. Moving on, we have a women's division match. We have Thunder Rosa versus Skylar, trying to build up Thunder Rosa now. Obviously, we had Sasha Banks being fed into Kimberly. Now it's time to kind of build up Thunder Rosa as our next big heel. We have Tessa, but I kind of want to have 2 big heels, and I think Thunder Rosa was going to be a good secondary, almost like a mid-card heel for us for the women's division. The match is fine, has a little heat, though, and is subpar wrestling. 36 is not bad, considering who we have. Thunder Rosa has a 36, and Skylar has a 29. Thunder Rosa defeats Skylar in 5 minutes. It's fine. Oh, boy, though, this segment is atrocious. What happened here? I need to know. I don't even know, but apparently Ricky Morton has taken over some road agent work for us, so thank you. We have Kimberly ringside not ringside, but at the interview table for Power, talking to Gavin loudspeaker. I think I need a better, not necessarily a announcer person, but I need someone that's like an interviewer. Normally it's David Marquez, but David Marquez is not in the mod for some reason. So you need to add him in, which is a little tricky when you're already playing, or find somebody else that would be a good interviewer, because I do like a good old school interview. Kimberly is talking about the match she just saw and says that Thunder Rosa definitely is a rival that she will not be taking lightly, and kind of views her as a competitor towards the title. Obviously, Tessa's still top of the mountain, but Kimberly having some big momentum after beating Sasha Banks, the former champion. And we will have to see now as Thunder Rosa rises if there's going to kind of come to heads between the two of them. But this segment, I don't know where it went bad. My guess, though, maybe Gavin wasn't the right person to do the interview. Yeah, it's not great. We start off our Crockett Cup tournament between the Good Brothers and two guys, one tag, Silas Young and Josh Woods. Segment is a 41. We get a little bit off our game from Josh Woods here, but it's a decent match, and in a surprise upset for the first round, two guys, one tag defeat the Good Brothers. OC get barely taken to. In 9 minutes, Silas Young pins Carl Anderson with a standing shooting star press. Joshua Woods obviously was the weak link there with 26, struggling to keep up from everything. And we move on a tag team tournament for the Crockett Cup. So two guys, one tag becomes the first of the second round. Good Brothers possibly favorites, at least on that side of the bracket, now removed early to a shocking upset. Everyone's favorite Austin Gunn is here to do a quick job for Brian Pillman Jr. It's an extremely short match, but we have Brian Pillman Jr. in 3 minutes submitting Austin Gunn. 46 for Pillman. Austin Gunn had 26, and actually his gimmick was rated as a great, which is interesting. Pillman seemed a little off his game. I'll have to find out why, but we do advance the storyline of the 10 pounds of gold a bit, obviously giving Pillman a little bit more momentum and legitimacy, trying to kind of reclaim that after losing his match against Chris Jericho due to the intervention of the Founders Championship, which now has been broken up into medallions. We do have to get back to that. I think we will have a medallion match next week. It's just sort of hard to fit all of that in during the Crockett Cup, but it will start to come back and coalesce. For those that are new to the show, the Founders Championship is something that we made that's like Money in the Bank. It's kind of sort of like the belt in Lucha Underground, where there's like medallions, the gifts of the gods. But basically, there's 5 of them for the 5 founders. You can win them in a match, and for as long as you're holding the medallion, if you ever lose a match, it goes to whoever gained it. So it sort of becomes like the G1 kind of contract. But if all 5 titles ever get to the same person, which basically means that they were like the best of that period of time, they have coalesced into one person, it becomes a binding contract. It becomes the Founders Championship now. And they get the Founders Clause. And the Founders Clause says that they have an opportunity within that year to cash it in for a title shot of their choice whenever and wherever they want. So it's a little bit of Money in the Bank, a little bit of Gifts of the Gods. It's kind of like a mishmash of that idea, and that's sort of like a wild card belt for us. And I think we'll start to introduce some of the medallions back into play. Obviously we don't have immediate plans for it, but we'll start to sprinkle the medallion matches in a little bit, I think. So after the match with Pillman Jr., Josephus was ringside with all of the cult members. They surround the ring, and he gets a microphone. In his other hand is the book of Josephus. He steps into the ring and starts sermonizing to Pillman. He says, "Brian, my lost sheep, I sense so much anger in you. That bitterness of knowing that you have to live up to a legend, and the undeniable truth of that quest lingering in the shadows. I know your goal, and you may not know it, but I know it aligns with mine. To show the world the truth, and to bring light to the darkness. You want to strip the title off of Brody Lee, another apostate who has failed to see the light. You want to show the world that you're as good as your father. That's your light. That's your purpose. But there's an undeniable truth lingering in the back recesses of your mind. Yes, I see it in your eyes. You already know the answer. No. No, you are not as good as your father ever was. And you never will be. But if you join us, we can give you the strength that you do not have yet. To overcome that reality, to remake yourself, and truly become better. You don't have to say yes yet. Just sleep on it." And Josephus closes his book, and the entire cult walks away. So it seems like Pillman is being scouted by Josephus in a different way. So last time they abducted somebody, right? To try to make him join the cult. This time he's trying to kind of sway him over, which is kind of interesting. And we don't really know why, but obviously Josephus is trying to kind of build that cult, and maybe he sees him as a potential to really kind of be a champion to the cause, and he's trying to go about his tactics a little bit differently, trying to persuade him instead of force him or convert, kind of like put him through conversion therapy. Segment does fine. It's okay. Josephus is a good mic guy. Pillman's okay with I think he just was acting or had overness, so there's probably some penalties attached to that. But an interesting development, a wrinkle to the mix here. Trying to converge some storylines together, have them cross over. So while we have Flip still trying to take Colt Cabana away, we still have the cult trying to expand and trying to maybe influence the future of the NWA through Pillman. We have a squash match. Does a little bit better. Got a 44. Miroslav, Big Boy Miro, Rusev defeats Ricky Ruffin in 3 minutes by submission. Looks great out there. Not much to say other than that. Afterwards, though, he gets ganged up on by the board of directors, who give him a nice warm welcome and beat the ever-loving crap out of him. And that does pretty okay. 49. So, we know Miro is here on behest of Billy Corgan. We know that Billy Corgan's using him to kind of try to maybe build up his own little army. Maybe Miro is the army to try to combat the board of directors and Paul Pinky George's control. And obviously there's bigger plans at play for that. But Nick Aldis going on the defensive as the de facto leader of the board and kind of giving them a warm welcome. And for our main event, we have FTR versus the Dawson Brothers in our second of the Crockett Cup matches for the evening. It's good wrestling and a decent reaction from the crowd, but ultimately FTR do defeat the Dawsons in 7 minutes. Cash Wheeler pinning Dave Dawson with a shatter machine after a shatter machine and advancing the Crockett Cup tournament. 60 and 61 for Cash and Dax, 43 and 45 for the Dawsons. Actually, pretty good in-ring performances by them. Might be people we might want to scout back in the future, but not yet, because they're not going to get that contract because they've been eliminated. Overall, though, both... it was just FTR showed excellent chemistry and were tag team specialists, ending the show with a 47 for that segment. Actually, a little light. I'm not worried about this final segment, but I don't think we're going to be growing anytime soon. yeah, 45 does not give us enough to have any popularity changes. We're just sort of staying the course. Part of that just is a problem of maybe bearing the lead in terms of like Miro and Pillman, and not having Brody Lee on the show probably hurting us. But we kind of wanted to start to move through the tournament. I figure we'll do 2 matches for the first round each episode. And then once we're through that, we can kind of do 1 a night to kind of continue the Crockett Cup. But right now we kind of have to blow through that first round. So that's going to affect us a little bit. But that is fine. We do have them move on. So we have FTR beating Dawson's and 2 guys, 1 tag beating Good Brothers. Definitely an upset there. I know Joe in the comments is going to be happy about that one. I want to try to make things not as obvious, so throwing that in as a bit of a swerve makes things interesting, but still believable. Silas is a top guy in another promotion versus the Good Brothers. Honestly, I think it's a pretty fair fight. It's not like Lucha Brothers versus the Cross Brothers, where if the Cross Brothers wins, I think that just would be kind of silly. But we have the beginnings of something interesting. So eventually it's going to be Lucha Brothers versus Cross Brothers, and the winner of that will be facing, I believe, 2 guys, 1 tag, if I have that alignment correctly. We still have to see the winners of the Rock and Roll Express versus the Batari, and the African American Wolves versus Violence is Forever. And on the other side of that, we have the winners of, I believe, the Legion of Rot versus Contra Unit will be fighting FTR, and the winners of Private Party versus Dub Boys will be facing the winners of Warhausen versus the Classic Connection. So we're starting to build up that tournament. Could have some interesting elements to it. Once we have everybody done, it'll be your opportunity to join the Discord and take part in the polls that will show up there to determine who will win the round 2 bracket. And from there, things get really interesting, because who knows what will happen when you guys decide it. Should be kind of interesting to see how it goes. That was it for me today, though. Thank you guys for joining me for another episode of Billy Corgan's NWA. I will see you next time.